The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. This is my review of the high frame rate 3D version of this movie. Now, I like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but I've never been one of those kind of people that's really into the whole backstory of the characters in Lord of the Rings and the whole mythology behind it. I've never really been into all that. I like the Lord of the Rings movies because of the special effects, the battles, a lot of the cheesy dialogue made me laugh. I enjoyed it. Obviously, you can see online there's a lot of Lord of the Rings memes out there. So it's not just me who enjoyed some of the cheesy dialogue in Lord of the Rings. So yeah, I like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but I was never really that deep into it where I like all the backstory and the characters and all that. Nah, that's not really me. But I did like the movies. I saw the first Hobbit movie. Yeah? And now I've obviously seen The Desolation of Smaug. There's no spoilers in this review, by the way, just in case. I mean, I'll put that in the title anyway, but there's no spoilers. I watched the first Hobbit movie. I thought it was cool. It certainly was in the same vein as the Lord of the Rings movies, slightly more lighthearted, but it was definitely, it felt like a Lord of the Rings movie, all right? It was directed by the same guy, Peter Jackson. It felt like a Lord of the Rings movie. And this movie also feels like a Lord of the Rings movie. Now, what I'm about to say right here might surprise some people. But for me, The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, in high frame rate 3D, was the most enjoyable Lord of the Rings movie I've watched. I liked it better than any of the other Lord of the Rings movies. As I said, the first Hobbit movie was cool, but I definitely liked the Lord of the Rings movies better, especially the first two. But with The Desolation of Smaug, this movie is so much better than the first Hobbit movie, and to me, is better than all the Lord of the Rings movies. Personally, I thought I enjoyed it more. But again, I watched it in high frame rate 3D, which did add a lot to my enjoyment, and I'll get into that in a second. But the things I liked about this movie right off the bat was the action. In the previous movies, including the first Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, there's long stretches in the movie where nothing is really happening. Where they have some cheesy love story in there, or, you know, bunch of politics is going on behind the scenes. All that kind of stuff is going on. And sometimes you're just wishing the movie to get to the action, or to get to the dramatic parts when they're building characters and building all these, you know, a lot of people like that stuff, but me personally, it was cool, but it got a bit tedious here and there. But with The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, it is action from start to finish. If you can believe that in a Lord of the Rings movie. This movie is action from start to finish, keeps you on the edge of your seat. There's some tremendous action sequences in this movie, better than any of it. For me personally, it's more dramatic than most of the battles and most of the action scenes in the other Lord of the Rings movies. But again, as I keep saying, that might be to do with the fact that I saw this in higher frame rate 3D. Now, the first Hobbit movie was also available to watch in high frame rate 3D, but a lot of people complained about the high frame rate 3D in the first Hobbit movie. They said it was over the top or something like that. They just didn't like the way it looked. Well, in this version, with this movie, The Desolation of Smaug, they've apparently mastered the high frame rate 3D technology to where I don't know what they've done. I think they've put some type of motion blur or something on the 3D so that the high frame rate doesn't shock you as much, so that it seems a bit more natural. Because most moviegoers are used to seeing movies in, I think, 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second, whereas this movie is in like 45 frames per second or something like that, almost double what a normal movie is in. So, yeah, those people who are a little bit put off by the first Hobbit movie in high frame rate 3D, don't be put off by watching this one, because they have mastered the technology. It does look a lot more natural now, but you still get the benefits of the high frame rate 3D, which is the tremendous depth of field that the extra frame rate gives you. It gives you a much clearer, sharper image on screen, and it just enhances the 3D effect so much more than watching it in standard 3D. So I'm telling you right now, you'll thank me later, but if you're going to watch this movie, make sure, I don't care whether you have to swim across the ocean, you know, swim across a pit full of snakes, fight, I don't care what you have to do. Make sure if you see this movie that you see the high frame rate 3D version, and that you see it in a movie theater or a cinema, as we say here in the UK, that has a very good screen for 3D. whether you see it in IMAX or whether you see it in a place which is one of my favorite places to go, which is View in Stratford Westfield Shopping Centre. That's my favorite place to go at the moment because the screens they have there are not IMAX screens, but they're extremely high quality and great for watching movies, especially 3D movies. So make sure you watch it on a good quality screen. Make sure you see it in high frame rate 3D. Don't bother with the normal 3D. Trust me. If you're like me, if you're a special effects whore, someone that loves incredible special effects, who love the special effects in movies like Avatar, Jurassic Park, Pacific Rim 3D, Transformers, Gravity 3D, The Matrix. If you love them kind of special effects that just blow you away, trust me on this one. The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug in high frame rate 3D is the movie you have to see next. It's incredible. Maybe the best visual spectacular that has ever been in movie history is this movie right here. The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug in high frame rate 3D. It's that good. The visuals are that impressive. All right. It really makes you feel like you're in the movie. Everything on screen seems so clear. The depth of field is greater than any other 3D movie you've seen before, apart from maybe Gravity 3D, which also had tremendous depth of field in the 3D and Gravity 3D. If you ain't seen that, I also did a review on that movie. The performances, well, they're kind of what you expect. Theatrical, It's Lord of the Rings at the end of the day. The performances are theatrical and they are what they are. They're perfect for the style of movie that it is. So I can't really say nothing wrong about the performances. There's no real standout performance that makes you, wow, this was an incredible performance by this actor. No, everyone plays their role, relatively well, and it's cool. You get me? Without anyone standing out and being incredible. There's some characters, obviously, from previous Lord of the Rings movies that return, like Gandalf and who else returns, man? Some of the dwarves who's in there, and I don't know. You go watch the movie and you'll see. Legolas, yeah, he returns. Legolas, the elf, he returns, and he's played by Orlando Bloom. All the characters are cool, but for those of you who are more into the mythology behind Lord of the Rings, you might prefer the other Lord of the Rings movies. I don't know. I've never read the books. I've never read the Hobbit books. But just for me as a casual moviegoer who likes the Lord of the Rings series more for the visuals and the cheesy dialogue rather than the actual mythology and backstory of the characters, for me personally, I thought The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, high frame rate 3D was the most impressive Lord of the Rings movie I've seen so far. And for that reason, I'm giving it a score of 5 out of 5. That's right, 5 out of 5. Now, it's all relative, This movie might get a 5 out of 5 right now, but if I reviewed it 3 years down the line, when the movie's 3 years old, I might not give it a 5 out of 5 no more because movies might have moved on. But as for right now, this point in time, this movie gets a 5 out of 5. I was blown away by the visuals. I loved it. Very enjoyable, plenty of action. There's no real lulls in the movie. It always keeps it moving. And I can't really sing its praises highly enough. Maybe if there would have been a standout acting performance in the movie, then, more people are going to like it than just me and the people who do like it. But I don't know what the other reviews are giving it. But for me personally, I give it a 5 out of 5. Highly recommended. The next movie I'll be reviewing will be 47 Ronin. I believe that's got Keanu Reeves in it, isn't it? Is it Keanu Reeves in there? I don't know. 47 Ronin, that Japanese movie with dragons and all that type of shit. I'm going to be reviewing that movie because that movie looked good. I'm going to watch that in the next couple days and drop my review. So yeah, drop your comments below if you've seen the movie. If you ain't seen the movie, let me know how you feel. I'm out.